Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Cork and Journey interview, man. Am I excited about this one? You know, every generation in wine has one or two people whose palate, discipline, and storytelling fundamentally change how the rest of us experience the glass of wine in front of us. And today's guest is definitely one of those people. He's a master sommelier. He is one of the youngest American master sommeliers ever, the centerpiece of the documentary SOMM. Gave you a hint, probably know who I'm talking about, which famously captured the anxiety, obsession, and sheer athleticism of chasing that pin. He worked the floor at luxury hotels. He's been Krug's U.S. ambassador, won the Best Young Sommelier of the World competition, co-founded SOMM Select, you better know who I'm talking about now, launched multiple wine projects across continents, and now he's entering his most personal chapter yet with the Caubleist. This is a one extraordinary bottle a day platform built on 25 years of traveling, tasting, and fantastic judgment in wine. I can only be talking about the one, the only Ian Cauble. Ian, welcome to the darn show.
You make me sound kind of important.
Well, I think you kind of are, my friend. I mean, I tell you what, it's just been, it was so great reaching out to you the other day, talking about the Caubleist and getting to know you a little bit offline. And I was just excited. I said, man, let's just jump on and do something. Because this new, we'll get to it, but there's been an adventure the last several years in your life as we've gone through things. And those of us who are fans and those of us who perhaps were doing some stuff somewhere else and purchasing wine, it's just good to see you have this brand new great adventure going on. So
we launched 2 weeks ago. It's being an entrepreneur now. As you know, I left SOMM Select about 3 years ago, and now I'm on my own, 100% entrepreneur, founding my own company, and it's going really well. And it's an exciting time to be doing everything from top to bottom. I'm baking the bread and making the sandwiches and doing the accounting. So it's an exciting time. Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, so basically, I think you kind of jumped to fame, I would say, in the documentary SOMM, which was, really kind of a landmark documentary, I think, about wine and what it takes to become a master sommelier, what you guys go through. And, I don't know why you stood out singularly in that movie to so many people. Maybe it's because you failed on the first one, right? And then it's like this post.
I was also filmed for about a year before everyone else too, and they, and I would think I was potentially the most obsessed, and I think I was it really overtook my whole spirit, and I think you could see that in the movie that there's nothing more that mattered to me than really learning the world and being able to master this craft. Because the hard part about the test is if you don't pass all 3 parts within 3 years, you lose all your parts and you start from scratch, like Chutes and Ladders. And so, I had a lot on the line. The second time I'd failed and 2 of my best friends passed, Brian and Dustin. And that was really hard because I was tasting really well. I was going out at 5 for 6 perfect every flight. And then I switched the wines right before the end of the test. It was Barolo and Barbaresco, and I called it, switched it to Barbaresco Barolo for 5 and 6 right at the final. So, it was a good mistake. I made the mistake that you should never do is change your answers at the end. And but right. Long story short, that ended up being a great failure for me, because I think failures in life do nothing but they hurt, but then they drive you to work harder and harder, and you become stronger and better at anything that you failed at. And I think for me, that was such an instrumental change for me, because it taught me a lot about myself and not giving up, and the amount of stress that I could tolerate as well. Because going in the third time to tasting, having that clock start for 25 minutes and having to accurately describe 6 wines of the world and pass the test, it was a lot, especially knowing I'd already seen the movie SOMM, and it was already finished actually. And the last scene of the movie was about to be cut in. So I knew this was like an important thing. So thank God that I passed, because that would have been a really hard third failure.
I would imagine. So, hey, before we jump in here, you had said, hey, Brett, we're not going to do this without a nice glass of wine in front of us. So yeah, we have the Hatzidakis. Yeah?
Yeah, Hatzidakis. Yeah. Hatzidakis Winery. So,
Assyrtiko.
Yeah. If you want to show the label a little closer, we can talk about the producer a little bit. So this is from the middle of the ocean, and just east of about 2.5 to 3 hours by boat from Athens southwest of Turkey and that whole beautiful sea there. And it's a volcanic island that basically exploded. I believe it was around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. The explosion was larger than, it was about 85 times the size of the explosion of Mount St. Helens, which was huge. This explosion caused a tidal wave that was supposed to be about 400 to 500 feet tall. And that wave basically caused the extinction of the Phoenicians. So the whole area of where Libya is all the way to modern day Israel and Lebanon, that whole coastline had this 400-foot wave that demolished any life that was within a mile of it. So what's left is this beautiful, which you guys will see in some of these images on the screen now, you'll see what's left is this big crescent. And the big crescent is the remnants of this volcano that exploded. And it's called Santorini. So this island is gorgeous. It's all made of black rock. There's no, as you can imagine, in a volcano, there's no water inside of it. So the only water that the vines get is from the mist of the sea air at night. So these grapes are grown in this circular kind of training method that looks like a bird nest. It's called Stefana. And these grapes are kind of protected by the blasting wind. It's kind of like being in Southern California at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. There's always wind blasting and you're on the beach. But if you were behind like a little 3-foot little brick wall, it would be hot, right? So the same thing, these grapes are kind of being protected from the wind, being protected from being shriveled by the constant battering of the elements. And what you end up with these beautifully concentrated Assyrtiko grapes. So this is the grape there. Assyrtiko, for me, it's singular in Santorini because of the volcanic rock, because of the climate. They get the salt from the actual wind. During the nighttime, the condensation lands on the leaves and drips into the earth. These grapes are really starving for water, and they become so concentrated. So they're a little bit higher in alcohol. If you notice, the texture is a little bit oily.
Yeah.
These are full-bodied white wines, but the acidity is just ripping. You have salt.
And this has got a little oak on it. We were talking about it before. Is that normal?
Yeah. So this is just one particular expression. So not all the wines from Santorini have a lot of oak. This particular barrel selection does have a little bit of French oak on it. And the wine is really brilliant. It handles it well. It makes it show a little bit more Burgundy in style, or maybe white Bordeaux could be some two analogs that people, if you really like white Bordeaux, meeting a little bit of a salty white Italian wine, I think that's what this is. But my very favorite preference is the unoaked versions. I do love the with oak as well, but that's,
well, this isn't Rombauer oak or anything like that. This is just a kind of a nice constrained use of oak, I would say.
It's a little bit of pepper on your ribeye. It's not, dipping the whole thing in it. So, but this is for me one of the most unique areas of the world to grow the grapevine. And if you haven't been, I would highly recommend going. This is a town called Fira. There's a town called Ia. There's a town called Mirovigli, which I stayed at, which is the very top. And you're on these cliffs, the remnants of the old volcano. And I'm guessing it's 1,500 feet down to the water. And you're in these infinity pools and jacuzzis drinking, bottles of Assyrtiko and having the local roasted lamb and feta cheese and local baked pita bread. And you're just, roast lamb, pita, tzatziki sauce, and all of these flavors with Assyrtiko. That's one thing about the new website, the Caubleist. We always have a pairing, right? So every single offer, if I'm going to do an Assyrtiko offer, there's a pairing on to the right. You can link on and pair every single dish with. And I think for me, that's really what brings a wine to life, is what grows together goes together. And trying to local.
I think one of the big differences between an MS or a Master of Wine, right, is all of the pairing, all of that kind of aspect of things, right? Yes, you do kind of get it on you're doing a Master of Wine, but it's really interesting because you're kind of living it more on the service side of things and all of that kind of thing. So, I notice whenever you talk about it, it's like what food's going to go with it, what's going to do this, what, when you should drink it, and, setting a nice stage there. So we're going to get to the Caubleist, but before, let's kind of take people. So let's go back to the movie SOMM for a minute. Okay. Yeah. So have you watched it recently?
Geez, I don't know if I want to go through that again, but I haven't seen it for a few years. I watched it at some film festivals. I usually watch like the first 10 or 15 minutes and the last 10 or 15 minutes, and I haven't seen it for a long time. I think it's kind of hard, going back, like if you were thinking about going through the most stressful time of your life and going back and watching a movie about it, it's not exactly my thought of.
When you do look at it, is it a version of you that no longer exists, you think?
Yeah, I think so. One thing too, I wasn't going to touch on, but I was bit by a tick like right before filming started. So I got Lyme disease. I didn't realize that I was trying to pass the hardest wine exam in the world, and I had Lyme disease, and I didn't know it. And so right after the movie, my health fell apart. And sadly, looking back on it, realizing that my body was just not in perfect shape. And I was just, my body it was kind of like being sick during finals week. You can't even pay attention to that. And I didn't realize that I wasn't feeling well until I stopped taking the test. And I came out the other side, and I was like taking a deep breath, trying to relax. And you're just, it took some time. It took about 3 years to find out what was going on. But I was just glad that I'd passed, because if I didn't, I don't know if my health fell apart pretty quickly after that. But wow. Yeah, I was definitely a version of myself that I've never been. That's for sure.
Is there any part of the whole process that didn't make it into the film that you think was kind of maybe should have been there?
I mean, there was, I think after I failed that next year, there was so much that went on. I won the best young sommelier in the world. I won the top sommelier of America. It was called the Top Somm competition. And then, I think that was probably a part of it. And then, there was just some parts of the movie that they edited out. Like, when they switched the wines and I was tasting them, the wines, turns out that they were actually switched because there was a different team of people who poured my flight than the first flight. And the girl next to me, this girl, Susanna Chawla, interestingly enough, she was like, I gave her my wine 1. I was like, does my wine 1 smell like your wine 1? Because we had the same flight. And hers was poured the hour before. She's like, no, your wine 1 smells like my wine 2. And I thought it was odd that they decided to cut that out, because she agreed with me that my wine
think that there's like not an extended cut, but SOMM TV has kind of released all these extra here's your entire blind tasting unedited kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think that would have been a good thing. I even asked Jason, he's a good friend, he'll probably watch this. I was like, why did you cut her out? And he was like, well, she didn't know what she was talking about. Because she agreed with me. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're thinking I didn't. But the wines where it was Beringer Chardonnay that was young, I was actually serving it by the glass at the time at the Ritz-Carlton. So I was tasting it every day. And then the next wine was like a 3 or 4 year old. It was an older Hermitage Blanc. In the wines, it's kind of like looking at the color blue and turquoise. There's no confusing them. And so it was a hard one.
I serve this every day. I know what
it is. It was a hard thing for someone. Reggie just took the wines and smelled wine 1 and 2, and he was like, no, we got it right. He didn't even taste them. And it was just hard for somebody to cement that in a film. And then it was interesting because, Reggie, I'm not sure if you know, but he was involved in a cheating scandal. He had his pin taken away. And Fred Dame called me the next day. He's like, I knew you were right the whole time. That's what he said. And so it was just funny that a lot of people were just like, they could see the conviction in my face. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It made for good TV. I know what I know. And I know that the wines were what I thought they were, because I tasted them after they turned off the camera. And I took the Beringer Chardonnay and I poured a second glass, and I smelled my Beringer Chardonnay and the new one, and it was the same wine. So there's no question about what it was. It was a little bit of a difficult thing seeing how it was spinned up on TV, because it looked like I was disrespecting my teacher, and it was kind of cut down to make it look like I was kind of disrespecting Yoda, in a way.
Okay, well, wrapping up on the SOMM movie thing, let's talk about the legend of the flashcards, if we will. Some burned, some saved. Okay, did you really burn them? Did you save them? What did you do?
I gave them to Jason Wise, that film, the SOMM Documentary.
Okay.
So I gave it to him. I think he might have either auctioned it off somewhere. I don't know what he did with them, but he was like, hey, can I have your flashcards? I was like, yeah, I don't need them. And so I don't know. I thought we were maybe going to burn them. I don't know if he ever did. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it one day as a 20-year anniversary or something like that. But I think it was released in 12, so it's about 13 years out. So crazy to think.
Wow. All right. So you passed. You touched it. You were at SOMM at the Ritz-Carlton, Half Moon Bay?
I was the wine director at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay. And the day I passed, I got an offer. Actually, about an hour before I got my results, Krug Champagne, I'd been interviewing there for about 6 weeks, and Krug Champagne offered me a job to be the United States ambassador, Krug Champagne. So
Wow.
So I took that job for about the next year, but it was a challenge because my health was degrading, and it was a great job. They're amazing company, so kind. Everybody at Krug Champagne, the wines are brilliant, and can't say enough good things about them. And they were, I was just like, hey man, like, you want me to be a track star, but my ankle's broken. I'm sorry.
Is that why you left Krug? Because you were only there like 6 months or something?
Yeah, I was there closer to a year after it all, but my health was not doing well, so it was really hard to keep up with the travel schedule and doing public speaking when you're not feeling well. It's like, imagine having the flu and trying to get up in front of 50 people. That's what I felt like every day, and it wasn't. I don't wish that on anyone. So yeah, Lyme disease is not easy, but thankfully I've pretty much controlled it.
Nice. Not so fun fact. I was playing golf at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay, that golf course right there,
Yeah.
The day that John Denver went right into the bay there. Right? It's like, that was crazy.
Wait, you saw it?
Saw that happen? No. It was like, we're sitting there, we're playing, and we're like, literally, he was like, boom, just like a mile offshore or half mile offshore that same day. I was like, damn.
That's crazy.
It was fun because he was like, was an experimental plane, some sort of plane. I don't know. Anyway.
It's a brilliant place. I mean, what a special property.
Yes. Not to bring the interview down or anything with John Denver's death. I mean, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just, no, it is a gorgeous property. It's everything's great. Yes.
Yeah. I don't even recall that happening, but poor guy.
Well, it would have been 97. Is that, I want to say that's my brain.
That's why I don't remember, because I was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. That would have been about when it happened, if I remember correctly. But anyway. Age myself here. All right, so you left there. You left Krug, and you go to you co-found SOMM Select.
Yeah.
What were you trying to solve there? So you're doing this now with the Caubleist, and we're going to get to that. But I found SOMM Select
in 2014. I was at home, just trying to make sense of the world because I wasn't feeling so well, and I was out doing a bunch of like PR stuff for the SOMM documentary. And one of my friends from college saw me up on stage and kind of realized that I was going to kind of elevate my kind of personality in the world of wine, and people were going to trust me because, of course, my character showed that I was probably somebody that was trustable. And
as I said at the beginning, you are kind of a big deal, right? I mean, you got to.
My mom thinks so. My mom thinks so. I don't know. I don't quite see it, but thank you for that. But yeah, so he basically said, "Hey, Ian, why don't we model some of these other daily offer companies?" There was like a few other competitors that sent a daily email, and a lot of them were discounters, right? So they would take a $59 bottle and charge $38, and you had 24 hours to buy it. So we kind of turned that offer on it, that kind of daily offer protocol kind of on its head, and we said, okay, what if we do a daily email of special wines that would be on the table of the French Laundry or Bouchon, like wines that you would be lucky to get 10 cases of, not that there's 120 cases left over that's stale inventory that's ready to be sold for $10 a bottle when it was 40, right? Wholesale. And so we decided to take the cream off the top of the wine business and do wines. If the best price in the country is 55, we might be out at 59 because, you can't be the low price leader all the time because obviously you're paying for shipping. And, if people want to park in San Francisco and walk into the wine shop after paying parking and lug the case to your car, you can get it for $5 cheaper, right? But we realized that we were trying to offer great wines, world-class quality, organic, biodynamic, organic as possible, or highly sustainable farming, which I think is very important. I don't think we should be drinking too many carcinogens for some reason. That just feels like we should probably be keeping our bodies clean as possible. And it's also great for the grapevines to be healthy and living their best life and creating the most flavor. You want to eschew synthetic chemicals as much as possible. So most of the wines that we offer and historically offered there were organic or biodynamic. And we just made wines that, so we would kiss the frog so you don't have to, right? So I would taste 10 wines and pick one. We'd write a story about it. And then I left SOMM Select in 2022. I didn't agree with the direction of the company, and the board of directors had made some decisions that I didn't agree with, concerning an ex-business partner. But long story short, I decided to work on my own project. So now I have a new wine project in Sweden with the 3-star Michelin chef,
right,
Bjorn Franzen, who has 3-star Michelins in the world, one in Singapore, one in Sweden, and one in Dubai now.
What do you guys do? Rhone varietals over there?
Yeah, so we're making we bottle a Côte de Rhone from very old vines, Côte de Rhone Village, and we sell it in the Swedish market. So that does really well. And I also have a wine called Method. So Method is a Napa Cabernet. We also make a white label California wine as well. Just got best wine of the year for wine enthusiast values, under $20 for the white label. And the black label you guys can see online. It's a fantastic price to quality, $35 a bottle for Method Cabernets. All Valley Floor, St. Helena, Oakville fruit. We have some really good contracts. And so we decided to make a wine that could be by the glass and be available for under $40 a bottle, which how often you see Napa Cabernet under 40 that tastes good. And this is pretty good. So I worked on those projects and then just
not out of Napa anyway. You don't see it out of Napa anymore, right? That's the thing.
No. Napa's, like average price is crazy now. And I think there's going to be a little bit of a price adjustment. But I love Napa Valley Cabernet, but a lot of the pricing is out of my personal access point. I think for most people are now looking to Paso Robles and Santa Barbara and other places. But I think now that Napa is starting to have a kind of realization that maybe that everything being $200 plus is maybe not a sustainable model long term. So I think some people are going to be pulling back pricing.
Well, that takes us right into the Caubleist. So, yep. I mean, I will tell you, there was a distinct cutoff from 6 months after you left SOMM Select. It was kind of like, well, people matter. And the wines that are being chosen and the wines being put out, they matter, right? And so it was kind of like, well, okay. When you talk about the daily ones, there's last bottle and first bottle, and there's all these that come out. They're interesting, and we'll talk about that in a minute, I think. But, it's kind of really excited. I saw the press release, a couple weeks ago, you dropped this press release out saying you launched what are you, 2 weeks in right now?
2 weeks, yeah, day 16. You feel every day, right? So, it's exciting though, but big, warm response.
What's the cap? What are you trying? What's going to set you apart from other wine clubs that are out there?
I think it's my palate, my selections. I really just try to pick wines that make me feel like this is I feel like I just look for wines that really resonate with my spirit, and something about when you put your nose in a glass and you taste a great bottle of wine, there's something that happens, and there's something that doesn't happen when a wine is maybe over oaked or overripe, and wines that maybe got a high score, but not in my mind. And I think that that's kind of the disconnect. I want to sell wines that aren't just high scoring because, how are you going to get, you're going to give a new Bentley 99 points and, but you're going to give an old Porsche 92. Why? I think it's hard to give two points to a particular wine. So we wanted to take the scores out of it, which, I'm kind of on the border of whether to share scores because I know it's so easy for people to be like, oh, it got a 93, it's good. But the reality is there's a lot of wines that got 89, they got 90, they got, 91 points that I would rather drink. And most sommeliers would rather drink than wines that got 99 points. Why? Because the wines that got 99 points, who gave it 99 points and why? Did this critic grow up having Pop-Tarts for breakfast, Honey Nut Cheerios, and likes donuts with his coffee? Or is it somebody who grew up in eating feta cheese and olives for breakfast, and they have a savory palate? Like a lot of the European critics grew up eating, savory cheeses and things like that. So your palate's completely different. And I find that that's the issue with some American critics. There's certain ones like Antonio Galloni, which I totally agree with 99% of the time when he gives a score. But there's also certain critics historically, I'll say Robert Parker, I didn't agree with when he gave a 99 points to a Barossa Shiraz, and the wine had 17%, 100% New American oak, and it was hard to drink. But the 91 point wines that had these used old American hogshead barrels that were much more balanced and these real true expression of Barossa Valley, it would be 91, 92 points. And I would 10 times over want to drink the 91 or 92 point wine because it's a real expression. It's not about makeup and polish. It's about this real expression of the vine without being covered up with, hot pink lipstick. I'd rather have the wine.
I think for a lot of people, getting on points, I want to get back to the Caubleist here. But for a lot of people, I think I kind of got it the other day. I was talking to a gentleman at a restaurant. He was sitting there, he was drinking, and he's a Robert Parker guy, bringing up Parker. right? And the bottom line was his palate aligned with Parker's palate. He wants big red wines. He wants a lot of new French oak. That's a lot of ripeness there. Alcohol levels be damned at this point. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't matter. But that was what aligned with him, right? And then, so I think there are people that look to certain critics, and it's like you said, Anthony? Is that
Anthony Galoni?
Galoni, right? You know, if you align with him, you're like, oh, okay. If he likes this wine, I might like it. So I think that's where scores can come in handy for people at a grocery store or people buying online. It's like, well, I throw out Parker because I know what that's going to be, right? And
it's changed too. Parker's changed. I think, he's retired, and now he has a new generation of people who I'm starting to agree with. The next generation of people. There's people that are taking over Napa that are giving some of these more balanced wines that don't have to be really low acid, really oaky, and like a big jam bomb to be high scores. And so people, I think the pendulum has swung back since 1998. James Lauby and in Wine Spectator and Parker were giving, there was a recipe, like you had a really low acid, very creamy, high oak. And those wines really didn't last more than 8 to 9 years because, you have something called pH in wine. You have a lot of Napa Cabernets are 3.6 to 3.8. But then as you get to 4 and 4.2, it's like having a glass of lemonade that really doesn't have many lemons in it, right? And has a lot of sugar. So it starts to taste, a little bit not as natural for me. So with people who like really oaky, really jammy wines, that's great for them. It's just not my personal palate because you can get those at the Safeway supermarket for $35. And you can find something that's been manufactured to be oaky and sweet and have residual sugar. And that's really, to be honest, that's the modern American palate. They've been trained to that's what's good. I'm more classical in terms of my approach, and I like wines that have more balance and have more expression of where they were grown. And I think there's a story to be told in both ways. I think one of them is a more classical, Mozart. The other one is more, modern American jam band. I don't know how to describe it, but
you maybe answer my question then, because you're still tasting thousands of wines every year.
I'm starting to taste a lot more now. But yeah, I probably thousands.
I originally wrote this negatively, this question, and I was, what are the disqualifiers? What makes something not, Caubleist worthy? But let's maybe flip that. What does make something Caubleist worthy? I mean, what do you look for?
It's just a feeling like, there's hundreds of appellations that are important in the world. And when you take a glass and you smell it and you taste it, it should evoke a great memory and have a positive impact on your senses. And when you do taste, tens of thousands of wine in your life, there's 1-2% that really stick out of being special. And I think I'm looking for those wines that are really special and also wines that I can offer a fair price on. So, some of the wines are just really like somebody has them at $39.99 and they don't even have the wine in some New Jersey liquor store. They just post it because they're like, oh, we have this wine. But you call them, they're like, oh, I can get it for you. But we would have to sell it for $55 in order not to go out of business, right? Because you're paying shipping and all this stuff. And it's hard to compete with people who are phantom, posters and people who don't even have the wine. So we try to make sure that people are getting a great product that I think is truly world-class for the price to quality. And it could be $22 a bottle and it could be $800 a bottle. And these are wines that should impact you in a great level. And, that's one thing that I really enjoyed about my older companies too, is people pick out the bottle and see the old sticker that we had and they could trust it. And, until I was, and obviously people have mentioned that things have changed a little bit since I left, but the old stickers, which we stopped stickering during COVID, you would pull out a bottle and see a sticker on there and you would know that I put my thumbprint on it and that's likely a good wine to pick for your special guest on Friday night, because you might have gone to a big supermarket and got a bunch of stuff on special, whether that's Total Wine or Grocery Outlet or something. Nothing against those stores, but you might have some stuff, for parties and barbecues. But then that, okay, this bottle has this sticker and it's been curated by Ian Cauble. You're likely not going to have a disappointing time. So a lot of my customers would reach out and say that was one of
everybody's definitely going to know it's you now because you branded this the Caubleist. You went all in. This is no corporate branding here. This is the Caubleist. So
I would say it's more confusing. It sounds like Caubleist, but it's actually Caubleist. So my last name, Caubleist. Some people have been like, oh, but I did buy the Caubleist also, because that was actually an idea for the name as well, just internally. It was like
Caubleist.
Caubleist, yeah. So the Caubleist, okay. Just like, the Atlantis is a famous magazine on the East Coast. So the Caubleist is everything that has to do with me, my travels, the last 25 years of my life, and the chance to share, these great experiences after SOMM. I've been welcomed all over the world. Like, a lot of people have seen this movie and seen how passionate I was about learning in the world of wine. And at the end of the day, a sommelier's job is sharing that world of wine with people. And so when I would travel the world and, checked off most great wine appellations of the world, people would open special bottles and offer special allocations. And luckily I have the chance to share that with new subscribers, and it's completely free for people to stay in touch. But we do charge for the wine.
So is there a Caubleist sticker?
There is a Caubleist sticker, yeah, and it has a QR code on it. Not to go to the bottle, but so if people just want to go see what the daily offer is. So every bottle is going to have a little sticker on the bottom right. And it just says the Caubleist, and you can scan the QR code and see what's going on. So we're building an online store as well, slowly building an online store. And so every day is a daily offer that comes in about 10 a.m. Pacific, and there's a link to go to the store or see the daily offer. And, we're probably curate about 50 to 100 really special wines in the store over the next few months. Right now there's, less than 15 because we're just building it slowly as I find great wines.
Right.
And it usually takes about 1 to 2 weeks to get your wine. So if you order today, we'll basically have the wine shipping out in the next 3 to 5 business days, because we have a third-party shipper. And so most people, if you order on a Thursday, you're going to get it the next Friday. But if you live on the East Coast, you might get it early the next week. So it's around 7 to 14 days from order to get your wine. But the wines we're offering, it's not like you're driving home from 90% of the wines consumed within an hour of purchasing it from the store. The wines that we're selling, it's where if you do get the wine, ideally you let it rest for a few days in your cellar, let it come together. But we're hopefully helping people, develop a small collection of wine that they can share with people, and they know it's going to be a real, honest wine. I would say it's a piece of art you could hang in the Louvre. It's something special and a special expression of the world of wine that I want to share, that I put my name on.
And I'll tell you, one of the things I'll ask you, I'll beg you to do this, but one of the things that got me into wine is basically the story. I love the story that goes into a bottle of wine and how it was made and where it came from and the whole thing. And over at SOMM, you did this amazing job of telling the story of the winemakers, the vines, every single aspect, where it should go, what it went through. And I used to take the URL, and I was originally using Cellar Tracker. Now I use Inventory, but still drop that URL into, when the wine arrived at my house, I dropped that URL in there. And then when I pulled that bottle down, I could kind of click into that and just read through, right? Hey, here's what we're drinking tonight, everybody, right? Because the story behind it, hey, here's what we're going to drink. Here's where it came from. Here's the story behind it. I don't know. The wine just tastes better, right? So I had all these links. SOMM had some changes, and they changed their website. All my links went dead, right? So all of those wonderful notes that you had done, all of that stuff is gone. So please, 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 after you put an offering out, just leave that page up for eternity, okay? And that link
I'll do everything I can to leave it up and leave it active, even if it's sold out. And I think I can archive them so that way they're in the interwebs forever, and it'll just say sold out. So.
No one will get to them unless they got a direct link, right? Once it's down from your page, no one's going to find it. But it's one of those things I will tell you, because you do a beautiful job of describing that wine and kind of going through it and really telling that story, which to me brings it alive. I mean, that's I think the thing. I mean, you talk about what separates us. I mean, most retailers are going to give you this got 91 points from this person, 92 points from this person, and the wine has tasting notes that look like this and taste like this, right? So that's all they're giving you. I think that's what makes the Caubleist difference. It tells you a story about where I found it, how I fell in love with it, just the life experience that I've had and why I think it's important. And I think that's the important separation. Some people, I've had friends of mine like, oh, the write-ups are too long because it's a 3 or 4 minute read, but I might put something on the website. I think we were talking earlier about like Cliff Notes. So I might put like a small little, so you can read it in 15 seconds versus 3 or 4 minutes, because it is a lot, I think, for the average consumer. For somebody like you who
like is kind of a geek, I can kind of tell like you really are getting into it. Somebody like you reading that 3 minutes or 4 minute story about Assyrtiko, the explosion, and all the Stefana growing method, that's great. Some people just want to be like, is this wine good? And you know, I think, but that's the thing that the Caubleist I think will attract a certain user. I'm not going to be able to compete with the wine.coms of the world, and you know, in those other companies. It's going to be a unique experience because you care about these experiences and you want to find the right things to pair with it. And I think that's one of the best things about historically people buying wine from me is they're finding that, okay, it might be an old red wine from Greece, but there's a slow cooked 7-hour lamb dish that they cook it for their friends. And that's what they would look forward to every Saturday. They would open up these wines that I curated for them and cook these recipes, and they would travel the world. And so you can get like all of a sudden it's like you were in Turkey or you're in Armenia or you're in South Africa, Chile, right? And you're channeling these flavors and these experiences that, you know, are changing the CD. I always talk to people like everyone has the same, you know, when there were CDs, you would have like the same 6 in your car, right? And you have, how often did you listen to Pearl Jam and Rolling Stones every day because you never changed them? That's like, you know, drinking Cabernet and, you know, creamy Napa Chardonnay. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's so many flavors and experiences to find in the world of wine. I think that's one thing that we can offer is like, you know, help us listen to some different music. However much you love Celine Dion, you know, the 12,000th time you listen to that song, maybe there's another artist that has a similar vibe.
I mean, that is the thing. 1,000 different grape varieties plus, right? And you've got all of this, and, you know, it's like, I drink Chardonnay and Cabernet, and it's like, my goodness, you know, it's so nice to be able to say to someone, hey, have you tried this grape before? Or have you tried this blend before? And have their mind blown, right?
And like I said, well, listen, Chardonnay and Cabernet are 2 of the greatest grapes in the world. We both know that. But like, okay, you know, there's a few hundred really interesting grapes in the world. Just to start, there's really 1,000 or 2 that everyone should taste, from, you know, Fiano and Greco and these great Gavi, Cortese, like all these interesting areas and appellations that people should really turn the page and try to, you know, expand. You know, life is short, you know, like expand your taste horizons. And
they're oftentimes really inexpensive and really good, you know, and they are natural and they are organic, to the sense that when you look at the vineyards, they're alive. It's not just this dirt field, which is your clear sign that,
I mean, I got to send you a bottle. I got to send you a bottle. Chateau Gravier. It's coming up in 2 days, and price to quality may be the best Bordeaux I've ever tasted. $70 retail wine, and it's coming from, you know, 5-minute drive south of Chateau Margaux, from this really gravelly soil, all biodynamic, and it's kind of takes this same approach to that. Burgundy has these small parcels. They're farming biodynamic, and they're really taking this artisanal approach versus a big, you know, say you have 100 acres or more of vines and you're farming with machine. It's different than if you have a small crop in your backyard, right? So this producer, Chateau Gravier, it's literally, I mean, you'll read the offer, and it's probably one of the more exciting wines I've ever tasted. And it's a 5-year-old Margaux. And it's like, but you taste Napa Cabernet and you're at 120, 200, 300, and, you know, it starts to get to the 400 to 500 mark for, like, you know, some of the best vines in the valley, if not 1,000. And then you go back to a humble Bordeaux that's $70 or $75. I can't remember.
You can find those, you know. We were at a wine shop in Arizona, believe it or not, a little tasting room in Arizona called the Art of Wine in Sedona. And they did this tasting, and it was like crazy wines in this tasting. And one of them was this Bordeaux called Gabby. I don't know if you've know it. Chateau Gabby, I think it was. Never heard of it before.
Gaubis? From
Gaby. Yeah. Might not even be around. Yeah. And this guy had it there, and he goes, yeah, I was in France, and I bought everything they had from this person, right? Like, I think they were going out of business or whatever. It was mind blowing, you know, and you're like, oh, well, then I'll take, you know, a case of what you've got, because I'm taking it with me because it's that good. But you never know, you can find that stuff, you know?
Yeah. I was doing a lot of direct importing, and I will start soon once things flow. But, you know, you can find things in France that I could bring them here and sell them for $25 or $30 a bottle, and they're 10-year-old Bordeaux. I'm sure you saw those at my old company that, you'd find these things that are just like, how can you buy these wines for this price and land them in America and then be able to still sell them for $25 to $30 retail. And they're, it's hard to compare because you have the cost of doing business here in America is very high, and I live in Napa Valley. I'm sitting at a winery here in Napa Valley now. I love the wines, but they're really expensive to make. The land is very expensive. It's not that I don't think people want to overcharge for their wines. It's just there's a lot of costs involved. And if you bought a piece of land for $500,000 or $1.5 million and you're farming it, there's a lot of costs going into that. So, and it's hard to pay a team of people to do all the work.
To bring over. I mean, it's kind of funny. We were Tina and I, my wife, we just spent the whole summer over in Europe, and we spent a month in Italy, a month in France, kind of thing, right? Wine. It was all wine. But we're in like Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and there was like supposedly this little winery like right next to this house we were renting. I'm like, I don't know. So I kind of walked through the bushes, and there it is. And this guy's been in the family for centuries, right? And you talk about importing great deals. I mean, the guy's like, yeah, well, I lost my importer. They're not importing. I get this and that. And I basically got the 2019, the 2020, the 2021, the 2022. They're all sitting in the warehouse, right? You know anybody that wants them? And I'm tasting through these. I'm like, yeah, probably 1 million people. Just gotta get them out, and get them over there. I mean, so for you, I mean, it's a bonanza. You can go over, find these wines, import them over, put them in the Caubleist, right? Drop them out there. I think it's going to be.
Yeah, we just got to spread the word. Right now it doesn't quite make sense for me to bring over a half pallet of stuff just because the word hasn't gotten out. So day 15, haven't done too much marketing to get the word out. It's just kind of been word of mouth, and that's, it's slowly going to grow. So I'll probably be working on getting a trip over to Bordeaux here in about 3 or 4 months once things start to take off, and your listeners hear about what's going on. And I'm excited for the years to come because I'm going to be able to just spend a lot of time in Europe finding new wines and getting things back to where I was back in the old days. And I'm, luckily I can do the things that I want to do, and I'm in full control of this company now. So it's exciting to, it's exciting, but it's, it's still a lot. I'm kind of doing 5 jobs when I used to do 1. So,
so back to the Caubleist. Let's talk about Caubleist 2.0. What do you got? I know you've launched it. It's there. It's the daily offering. We're talking this morning. You go, Brett, I launched the store. So I imagine the store has previous offerings are sitting in the store now.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm going to start to curate
in the
some
last
other things.
week. So what's coming at it?
Well, the thing is, because it was a daily offer, right? One offer a day, you get free shipping over $200 for now. I hope I don't have to raise it, but shipping costs are really expensive. But we do a daily offer, and a lot of people want to be able to buy 1 bottle today, 1 bottle tomorrow, and build a case over time and do say 12 bottles over the next 30 days and get free shipping. So we're working on programming that now. But in the meantime, we've been adding more wines to the shop so people can buy 1 bottle of the daily offer. And there's some $50 champagne Grand Cru in there. There's some good Chateauneuf-du-Pape, some good Organ Pinot at 26. So there's a lot of great just price to quality bangers in there that, that you can fill out a case really quickly versus having to buy, we did an Evesham Wood $26 Organ Pinot. Some people don't want to buy 6 bottles of the same wine. You'd like to buy 1 bottle and then have a bottle of champagne and Old Rioja. So we're kind of putting a lot of the all-stars into the shop. And so over the next 40, 50 days, we'll have a nice selection of stuff like you went into a well-curated wine shop. That's on the wall. And then every day we can, point the spotlight at a special wine in the world. And then we're going to be launching clubs in February. So I'll probably start to work on shipping our first club offers in February, March, where we're probably looking at doing a $99 4-pack with $20 shipping. So $119, you'll get a 4-pack with a magazine of a different subject around the world, whether that be, South American or talking about an overview of Oregon or, undercovered gems from the Napa Valley, for example, or Mendocino, just really giving a deep dive into some of these areas of the world that you might not normally go to, Spain outside of Rioja. How many people can name 5 areas outside of Rioja? Not many. If you're a wine geek, yeah, it's no problem. But there's a lot of really cool stuff in Spain. Northwest Spain is one of the untouched treasures in Galicia. Yeah. And, German red wines, for example, would be a really cool subject. You have world-class Pinot Noir in Germany. Now that the climate's slowly getting a little warmer. The Mosel Valley to be only important for Riesling, and now the Mosel is growing Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's really good. Not to say that it's the best of Europe, of course, but it's really interesting that you have these fractured slate soils, like it's like a 10 million broken chalkboards, and you have this incredible steep Cabernet vineyard, and the wine is incredible. But a producer called Steins, Stein, you guys can look it up. But there's so many really great places in the world to discover.
Yeah, awesome. So I know we talked earlier. I said, hey, let's do a thing on scores. We already touched on scores briefly here. I do wish you would do scores. I would, if there was a Caubleist gives this 95 points, I'd be all over that. I mean, it doesn't even have to be stuff you sell.
Well, maybe I'll have to start a publication. I'm going to do iancauble.com, and I'll start tasting the world. I mean, it's hard. I think if I was going to do that, it's hard to I think we talked earlier, it's hard to give a wine an objective score when I'm selling it. I think it's kind of like
yes.
I think it's like a conflict of interest. Like, oh, this wine's a 99. And I think, and the scores are just, I don't know. It's like,
it gets weird. It does. It's really almost a 15-point range anyway. 85 to 100. It seems like, right? I mean, nothing ever.
Let's do it right. Like the Masters of Wine, it's like 1 to 20. Like Jancis Robinson, okay, 18.5. But it's hard because everything in the score realm is like everything's 88 to 93, right? But in reality, it should be like 70 to like 90. It should be like 70 to 100. So I think think about it. If you got a C minus, you still graduated, right? High school. And it doesn't mean you're horrible, but if you give a wine a 74 points, it doesn't necessarily mean it tastes like, the dog fell in the fermenter. I think it just means that the wine is not that great, and maybe it's good for $7.99. But we've come to this world where anything that's under 89 points is considered bad. But listen, if I got a B on a calculus test, that's pretty good. And that's 85 points, right? 85 points in a difficult class, you're good. But I think wine scores
that becomes kind of the thing.
Inflated to the point where I don't think I could be honest and make people happy. Like maybe I would have to recalibrate and just reset my mind. If I did become a critic one day, which might be in my future, it definitely could be, but I would have to reset my mind and be like, okay, this is what people expect. A wine that's not that great is 88 points.
Right.
But I think an 88-point wine should be good. Like that's the problem. And I think some critics out there, like John Gilman,
good. It is 88 points is technically good,
but most critics would look at it and be like, no, I'm not buying anything under 90. Like John Gilman, I think, he'll taste Montrachet, like Grand Cru, $1,000 bottle, and he'll give it 89 to 91 points. And that wine is brilliant, right? And there's other critics who might give it a 97 to 99 because it's Montrachet, because it is $1,000 bottle versus, and I think that's the hard part. It's just, it's so subjective. And that's why it's just like, all right, I think this wine's really good. Like you should drink it. And what score would I give it? I don't know. If I gave a wine a 91, people might not buy it because it's a $38 91-point wine. They want to go to Total Wine and find something that's 93 points or more for $20 or less. So, and there are critics who will give big scores for low price because it does sell wine. It does put their name out there, right? And and it is a good business plan for those people to get their names out there because you are helping move boxes. And I do understand that part of the business. It's just hard for my soul to fit into that. I don't know. It's just, I just want to be honest and bring great wine to people. And I think that eventually I might have to get into the critic game.
So can we say if it's being offered up on the Caubleist, you like it or love it? Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
You're like to love range.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And like you can read the offer, how much I love it. Right. So, I mean, there's wines that are really good, like Sauvignon Blanc from Loire Valley coming out tomorrow. Delicious Gaudry. Am I going to take that wine to a desert island and only drink that for the rest of my life? No, but it's a really great Sauvignon Blanc for $35. And it's absolutely delicious. And it hits all the boxes from 80-year-old vines in Puy-Fumé, all organic parcels. Right. So it's, that's going out tomorrow morning, but it's, if I gave it a 97 points, maybe people would buy it, but it's not, for me, it's about just being honest. And I think that if you read the offers, it's like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't do anything else other than just try to share great wine with people and tell the truth. And like I said, 5 years, 10 years from now, the world might pull me into traveling and just, being a critic. And then I'm going to have to do everything I can to try to be as honest as I can and give my opinion without, upsetting people, because I don't want to give somebody an 88 point wines and them think that's bad. That's the hard part. It's like, no, man, you went to school all year and you got a B+. It's pretty good. But everyone wants to be an A. And the sad part is that's like 5% to 10% of the world. I think a lot of the wines on the store shelf should be 78 to 88. But guess what? That doesn't move bottles, and it's not going to work with the current situation,
Looking ahead next 10, 15 years, we've got climate change, we've got tariffs. Consumers are all over the map with their habits. We're going into this whole neo-prohibitionist kind of thing going on right now. Where do you think we're actually headed?
I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that the tariffs get taken back. And I'm hoping that, it's a difficult situation. Luckily, there's a lot of wines on the market that are pre-tariff that I have access to. But it's, brought a wine that used to be 29 to 34. Or, a lot of the producers and importers are sharing the cost with the actual vendor in Germany or Austria, or wherever it might be. So that way they're actually able to offer similar prices. So a lot of people are absorbing it. They're just taking lower margin because they would rather take 10 or 12% lower margin than lose that glass pour to another country. So there's a lot of, we're looking at a lot of good values. Like, I'm always big about Oregon. So I think Oregon Pinot Noir, in Oregon Chardonnay, look for those offers on the Caubleist. A lot of people don't know that, white Burgundy for $60, $70, you can drink Oregon Chardonnay for $40 that tastes like it. One offer we just did, if you look on the website, white walnut, $40 Oregon Chardonnay that performs like a good, Chassagne Montrachet or Pouligny Montrachet, just absolutely delicious, small production, biodynamically farmed. So Oregon, I'm a cheerleader for Oregon. I think
Oregon and Washington are doing some crazy good stuff. I mean, especially the climate. Washington is starting to really,
the Red Mountain stuff out of Washington's fantastic. The Horse Heaven Hills, Yakima, all these areas have some really brilliant wines. And then some of Syrah out of the rocks are really good. They're kind of pricey, but for $60, $70 for an on the rocks Syrah, they're kind of like Hermitage with a little bit more of this teriyaki meat kind of quality to them. Like, they're very, very savory for those people who like savory wines. But I think, there's a lot of stuff, in light of all the tariffs, domestic wines are showing a little bit better value now. So Santa Rita Hills in Santa Barbara, where Sideways was shot, some really beautiful stuff. Even in Napa Valley, there's some great values to be had. So today's wine was pot under $100, really beautiful mountain fruit coming from about 10 miles south west of me. There's this, he has this beautiful property up on the hill, and his Napa Valley Cabernet is $80 a bottle. And guess what? It's really great for that $15+ a glass price point that, overperforms. And we've got My Wine Method, the Black Label. I'm doing an offer for a special price on Black Friday. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming up, and we're just trying to share the world with people. But at the end of the day, the tariffs are tough. 15% is doable. 7.5% gets shared by the importer, 7.5% a lot of the time from the producer in Europe. And I'm just hoping that that people stop tariffing wine. Tariff my cheese, but I'm just kidding. It's obviously my business, and I want to be able to buy the great wines of the world for as good of a price as possible and share that with people. So we want to keep wines from Europe, the classics, at an accessible price point.
Fantastic. Well, Ian, before we wrap up, anything else that we missed that you want to share before we go?
No, but you can, check out my Instagram, Ian Cauble. You can follow my travels around the world, and, my wife and kids. I have this beautiful 5-year-old and 8-year-old. You can see our most recent trips to Mallorca and Barolo and all of the north of Italy. We went through Lake Garda. So if you want to stay in touch with my travels, you can follow at Ian Cauble or at the Caubleist, and sign up for the Caubleist.com for free to stay in touch with the future of the company. And it's going to be an exciting few years, and until I become a critic. I'm just kidding.
We're going to put all those links down below, and we're going to have some sort of special offer. Ian and I are putting that together. We'll be talking about that later. We'll put some links in that down the road as well. So Ian, thanks so much. Truly appreciate you being here, my friend. Good luck with this. It's going to be a winner.
Look forward to seeing you in Vegas sometime.
Yeah, I guess maybe in a few weeks we'll meet up for a glass of wine, hopefully. So,
exactly.
All right, everybody. Good. With that, we are going to wrap up another edition of, I guess, This Week Uncorked, Cork and Journey, the interviews, whatever it is they are. As always, we'd love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on all your favorite social media apps. Until next week, everybody. Cheers.